做夠啦，我哋可以繼續開會。請證人入嚟一下。
Is Mr. Tinkam Lam outside? I'd like to welcome everyone. Do we need to refresh our declaration? Are there any members who would have any new declarations to make? If not, then the previous declaration would still stand. So both the declarations and the disclosures. Thank you. Paul? Today, we have promised to let Kenneth be the first to ask questions. Thank you. Mr. Tinkam Lam, would you witnesses attending the hearing today, other than the government officials, will not be protected by the LegCo's powers and privileges ordinance for what they for the evidence that you give at this hearing. Kenneth. All right, I'll start with my questions. I would like to invite the witness to go to Jan 22. That is the mega event assessment report and other reports. I'd like to focus on first of all, the auditor's report. The auditor's report is at Jan 22 at page 191 to 200. I'd like to first of all ask the witness, Mr. Tinkam Lam, this question. Obviously, the audit report for 2014, the audit opinion for this year is different from those of the three previous years because there are two exceptional items, and this is on page 194, project account and procurement procedure, and they've made two comments there. So I'd like to know for event C1, C2, and C3, are you aware that the same situation had arisen? Mr. Tinkam Lam, you may refer to C1, C2, and C3. If you require that, we can locate the documents for you. I know that very clearly, Chairman. It will be difficult for me to answer the question on behalf of our auditor, because every auditor's report had been carried out or prepared independently by the auditor. You asked about the audit report for 2014, how it differed from those for 2012, 2013. Of course, I know there are differences, but I cannot answer on the auditor's report why the report is drafted in a different way than the report for previous years. The best I can do is to submit all the evidence and invoices to the auditors so that it could conduct the audit. Point taken. But as the person responsible for this project, I think your status would be similar to that of a company director. Before an auditor issue an auditor's report, the auditor would discuss with the director of the company about the content of the audit report before he would release the audit report, and that is the usual practice. So did the auditor, and let's not talk about C4 alone, for C1, C2, C3, before publishing the audit report, did he discuss with you the content of the audit's report? Because the opinion for C4 is actually a negative comment regarding that event. Have you ever discussed this with the auditor, Mr. Tinkam Lam? The simple answer is no. If I had discussed that with the auditor. If I had any influence over the auditor, he would not have made such a comment. I fully respect the independent opinion of the auditor. So you fully agree with what the auditor has said in the report, Chairman. I must clarify that I do not fully agree with what he has written, but I respect everything that he has written in the report. Did you explain to you why you and the auditor had a difference of opinion? I only knew about what he wrote in the report at the final stage. So do you agree with the auditor's comment, the bank account and the procurement procedure? That's item 1 and 2 on page 194, point 1 and point 2 there. Do you totally disagree? Do you partially agree with the auditor's comment here? Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Mr. Chen. I think we've asked the same question before. You've used the same account in previous years. That is, the account was used for C1, C2, and C3, and the amount that was deposited into the account was different. And that's correct. The two comments made by the auditor just, stated the facts. But if I was allowed to make an explanation before he drafted the report, he would better understand. It was only after I have received the auditor's report, and now that the committee is asking me the question, that I'm now explaining that the surpluses from previous years have been put into this account, and that's why the auditor noticed the discrepancy. Secondly, I can only respect the way he drafted the report. I've also explained before that I would not be able to have all the recruitment records, invoices and receipts for salaries paid. So I understand that all the performers were not employed by yourself. That is very clear. These are members of various sports organizations which did the performance. In Jan 22, Mr. Chair Porcher had mentioned that this year there's a lot more information in the report, especially on page 80, from page 86 to 129. Or rather from 86 to 123. On all those pages, we have the names of all the sports organizations, and this is the column for employment created. Could you tell us whether or not these are the jobs created on the day in question? That is all the name lists from pages 86 to 123. Do they include all the performers who have been employed for the performance? Chairman. Well, such data and name list have been provided to me by the two co-organizers. Whatever information I have received, I would simply submit to the mega event fund. Could you say that again? Which organization give you the two co-organizers, Mr. Hui and Mr. Tam? Yes, Mr. Ha, Mr. Hatakin, and Mr. Tam. After they've given me the information, I will submit them to the MDF. So in other words, your contact will be the two sports organizations, but then beneath these two co-organizers, there are many other sports organizations. So for C1 to C3, you had not obtained such information. Who did they provide? Who asked them to provide such information? Did they volunteer to give you such information, or did you ask for such information yourself? Well, Chairman, in previous years, in fact, it's true that they did not provide such information to me. Obviously, whether or not they have provided me with all the information, well, that's not necessarily the case. Every year, in counting the number of dragons and lions, I remember I also testified last Saturday that the auditor deployed several dozen staff to take head counts. So I don't have the relevant information on my hand. So therefore, I didn't have such information, therefore I could not submit them to the MBF. This year they're giving me more information. I don't know why. Because all the preparatory work have been rather complex, involving different sports organizations. And again, the management task was not an easy task. Of course, if they were able to do this year, then I would submit them accordingly. If you cannot give an explanation, why is it that, well, did you ask them what these forms would include? You didn't know what it was all about, and you submitted them to the MEF. For you as the convener, that would be risky because you wouldn't know. You didn't know what these documents are. You didn't try to clarify, and you submit them anyway. I think this could actually be, prejudicial to you. It would not. Of course, the titles of the documents are very clear. It's not possible that I did not know. But I think these are the things that the MEF needed to know, and if I had such information, I had to submit them. Assuming that I don't know about how this operates, could you tell me for these several dozens of pages, what roughly are they about? Chairman. On this form, you find the names, the position, because some of them are, lion dancers, some are dragon dancers, some would be the dancers for the Buddha heads. They also have the organization to which these performers belong and where they work. So I think they've provided very detailed information here. They stipulated the number of people which have been deployed by the different organizations. Of course, it's not that they have, I don't know whether or not they have been, included a full list of participants. I don't know. But anyway, I submitted whatever they have, information they have given me to the MBF. Have you verify with them, say, as to whether or not all the people on the list, have they been paid salaries? Of course, you know that this is something of public concern. They must have a reason for giving you the name list because they have not done so for events C1 to C3. Have you asked them why they did that? So I think the name list, on top of the name list, is the number of jobs directly created by the Lion and Dragon Dance Extravaganza 2014. In other words, the participant organizers, they have provided us with the names of all performers who had taken part. I'd like to remind you that the salaries pay had not been included. Of course, there is an column called wages or salaries which has not been included. So what does that mean? I really want to find out whether or not these people were paid a salary or not, or some of them were paid and others were not paid a salary. In that case, why do you still have a column, salary, if these people were not paid?
All I can say is that as the convener of the organization, well, I have supplied all the information to the MEF. And in relation to the people on the list, perhaps Mr. Leung is concerned about how much they have received. And that is not something that I'm supposed to know as the convener. As I said at the outset, that in the process of preparation, our prime concern was to make it a successful event. So the number of people employed is not really our concern. And as to the method of payment, Mr. Leung on the last occasion looked at the information related to Ha Tak Kin, but it's outside my purview. We did not at all, require them to state how much they have received as to each person appearing on the list through that 200, 300. I do understand that, Mr. Chan, that it won't be the case that the two people responsible for the extravaganza would, on their own initiative, all of a sudden do so much work. My question was whether it was done at the request of you, Mr. Chan Kam Lam, or by the controlling officer, or by the public, because they have expressed concern. And please refer to paragraph 5 of the auditor's report. I think it's note 5, page 200, also on Jan 20. In relation to related party transaction, there are two sums. One is Fat Kung Sports Association 336,500 and Hatakin Martial Arts Society 329,750. There are two sums. Mr. Chan Kam Lam, you explained on the last occasion that the resources you need would cover all the resources available in Hong Kong. That's why you did not obtain a quotation. That I understand. However, when these two people asked you for 336,500 and or 329,750, did you ask them for a breakdown? Say, for example, a list setting out that there are 430 performers charging however much each hour. Did you at any time request them to produce you a breakdown prior or after the event? I think Mr. Leung doesn't really understand the operation. Let me explain to you that when we work out the figure, we base it on the number of dragons, lions, and Buddhas deployed. And in relation to the two associations, it's not the case that they deployed everyone. They are responsible for distributing the money to the participants or performers. So we don't know how much the performers received at the end. Well, as for the sums 336,500 or 329,750, I think the question was, where did these sums come from? Did you ask where the sums came from? Yes, we did. There is a list. The list states that under each association, how many lions, dragons, and performers there were. Do you have the list? Yes. We supply the list to the administration. So, say for example, how much each dragon, each unicorn, each lion would cost. Well, I don't think you as an organizer would accept just a lump sum, say 300,000 instead of, and not ask for a breakdown. From pages 86, we see hundreds of people appearing on the list. I don't see the purpose of this. Can you clarify after this meeting what these people have done? Why is the list furnished? If you say that you don't know what the list is for, then it's meaningless to furnish the list. So can you get some clarification to find out the purpose of this list? Mr. Chan, I can tell you that I will do my best to find out, but I cannot guarantee that I can do it because I'm a convener. There is no need for us to know exactly who is in the lion or dragon. All we need to know is that how many lions are available and how much the total sum is. So I may not be able to get the information you seek. No, I'm not asking for that information. I'm only asking for what the list stands for, that the performers are performers of lions and dragons. I'm not trying to find out that the people on the list actually received $50, $60 or what. But you see that. You see the information. They are, say, Buddhas. But there is no mention whether they have received salary or not. All I know that they have received salary. I don't care about how much, but whether they have received a salary. Otherwise, the list will be useless. And my concern is not whether they are employees. All I want to know is that whether this is a list of the people employed and paid their salary on that day. I want that verified, Mr. Chan. You give the list to the MEF, to the Tourism Commission. Without the information, the list will serve no purpose. And I want to take you to an older document. It's the audited report of C1. Let me spend some time to find it first. Mr. Cham Kam Lam, can you give us the list in relation to the two associations, that is the 300,000, the 300,000 and 330,000 and 320,000? Yes. Gen 5. Maybe some assistance can be given to Mr. Leung to find the audited report. Gen 5. What page? I only have one question. Gen 5 in relation to C1. What is the pagination? 133. Handwritten. Is the record break, is the income and expenditure account, the 1st of January 2011. Please allow some time for the parties to find the right page. Mr. Chan Kam Lam, are you there? Yes. The total expenditure is $3,058,496. This is the figure appearing on this page. You see it? Yes. I'm also aware that in the last hearing, Mr. Cham Kam Lam said that in each event, there was a different theme, sometimes a unicorn, sometimes lion, sometimes Buddha. As a result, there may be some differences in the total expenditure, even for the same event. I want to ask about allowances for dancing teams. They are expenditure related to performers. 1.5 million. It seems that this is a big difference compared to that of this year and is really rounded. Can you explain? Can you explain for the upsurge, Mr. Chen? Well, I have to refer to the invoices before I can answer you. What I can say now is that the sum is whatever the sums added from the invoices. I think you were asked about the difference between the 300,000 for C, 740,000 for C4 and 1.5 million for C3. Well, all I can tell you is that the expenditure for 1,111 lions, the expenditure was huge. This time we had the Buddha mask. I think there are about 300 to 400 people and 300 lions. And the number of dragons has also dropped. That explains the difference. Kenneth. If there are invoices, receipts, well, I want to get the invoices, receipts for the 2011 event. So for the $1.5 million, who can supply that to us? The applicant under the agreement should keep the documentary proof for 7 years. So I'm sure that the documentary proof will still be there, and that's what I ask for. Yes, we have that. Kenneth, you have finished? Yes, for the time being. Paul? Thank you. And I think the target is not just a particular event or a particular organization. It's about the entire mechanism. I think this has been addressed on the last occasion. They have learned the experience from Harborfest. The mechanism of the MEF was improved. If you refer to the transcript, the first hearing, that is the 12th of May, in page 12, Mr. Yong, the commissioner, answered a question and said that they have learned the experience of Harborfest. They have set up an assessment committee. They have also put in place a system by which only half of the funding amount will be disbursed first. And they also require organizers to keep all the receipts and documents for checking later. And from the last hearing, we learned that in relation to Mr. Koh's case, the invoices, receipts cannot be produced because he said that everything's finished and files closed. And there are questions asked of the Deputy Commissioner. The audit asked questions, however, the Tourist Commissioner did not ask for follow-up questions. This is against that background. Deputy Commissioner, please answer. That's the background information. It's just for fairness I remind you of the background information. And in relation to the agreement, did the Secretariat of the MEF seek advice from the DOJ, the Department of Justice?
I noticed that you have been, improving on the agreement. For example, using Tier 1 and Tier 2 systems, and you've also adopted new forms and added new provisions to the agreement. Would you agree? Yes. All along we've been consulting the DOJ. When after we drafted the agreement, we subsequently made some amendments, and every time we did that, we had consulted the DOJ. In terms of monitoring, you say that you've learned from the experience of Harbour Fest, and I had attempted to look up the documents relevant to the Harbour Fest. I think the Audit Commission had published a report on the 31st of March 2004. Given that the Harbour Fest was a subject of public concern, the then Financial Secretary on the 12th of October 2003 set up a special committee to conduct an investigation. Have you ever studied that report? That is the task force report on the Harbour Fest. Chairman, I personally have not read the report. I can only say that the MEF, when it was being planned in the year 2008-2009. When we set up the MEF, when we were drafting the guidelines and the rules, I believe our colleagues at the Tourism Commission had made reference of that report. But I had not yet joined the Tourism Commission at the time. Noted. Regarding the improvements, it is true that you've adopted the recommendations and made some improvements. But to follow up on the report as to whether or not they were based on evidence, have you made reference of the experience of the Harbour Fest, whether it's the experience of your predecessor or the records maintained by your secretariat? Chairman, I can only say that our colleagues, having made reference of such of that report, many of the enhancements and improvements made subsequently, for example, every time we disperse the funding, we will retain the right to terminate the agreement, or that we can impose financial sanctions after the event is concluded. We would require the organizers to submit independent auditors' report, etc., etc. All these have been introduced into our mechanism. Regarding our checking the document and also the work of the independent auditor, and the extent to which we would conduct such an investigation, I and my colleagues have stated that we've all along been learning from our experience, and the audit report this time, and also through the audit report this time and the hearing, in respect of the scrutiny by LegCo and the public, we now have a better understanding of the expectations of the public and LegCo. If we go look at the post-mortem analysis of C4, that is the letter you sent on the 4th of June this year. If we go to Jan 20, page 201, my understanding is that every time after the event is over, since you have to prepare the account, you would, Commissioner, can you find that letter? 201. In para 2, you say you...
説話咧，你所謂 duly 嗰個字咧，佢包含嘅含義係乜嘢㗎？
So what do you mean by duly scrutinized? Chairman, every time we receive from the organizers the report and also the independent audits report and the media reports, we will first of all verify the information, because sometimes the information could be or what is in the report might have certain commissions or errors. And secondly, we need to confirm that all the accounts can reconcile with each other. And if there are any discrepancies, we will look at them. We would also look at the figures in the assessment report and also the audited independent auditor's account and see whether we can actually verify the figures in those accounts. We'll also take random checks of the invoices, in particular the events as funded by the MBF. We would take more checks, but we will not be able to check all the documents because we respect the and trust the independent auditor's report. By duly scrutinize all the documents concerned, especially after the audit report has been published this year, we agree with the Audit Commission that we need to step up our effort. We've also undertaken to recruit colleagues with accounting expertise to do this work. We have yet to create that post, but within the Tourism Commission, we have colleagues who have an accounting background. And this time we've enlisted the support to help us take a look at all these documents. We hope we'll be able to do our best, but as I said, the extent to which we scrutinize this document, I think all I can say is that we can only do our best. You say that you have limited manpower and you do not have professional auditors on your establishment, and that's why you have to rely on the independent auditor's report. Now, in the past, the wordings you used, that is for C1 to C3, for 2011, you used the words carefully scrutinized. That is the letter of the 20th of 2011. That's Gen 5, page 311. And then for 2012, 6th of June, and this is a Gen 6 at page 305. And once again, you said here that you've carefully scrutinized the documents submitted. And for the 18th of July 2013, and this is in Gen 3, Gen 7, you say, again, you've said that you've carefully scrutinized the documents. It is rather odd that this time you use the terms, you have duly scrutinized all the documents. Is there any difference between the use of the word duly and carefully? Well, Chairman, different colleagues drafting these reports may have different styles. I respect, Mr. Chair, for being so meticulous in going through the documents. It is indeed true that two different words are used, but I don't think there is any big difference. Legally speaking, there might be a big difference, but this is only, an ordinary drafting. C1, C2, and C3, those three letters were drafted by the then Secretary of the Tourism Commissioner, and that Secretary has now left the Commission. And the latest, letter was drafted by another colleague. But when we drafted these documents, we were not preparing legal documents, and therefore we were not very mindful about the difference between the connotations of duly and carefully. Without a legal background, it is our understanding that the two words more or less mean the same thing. In respect of Mr. Kochi-sam's items in Gen 20, the letter dated the 21st of January 2011, I think Mr. Ko had said that since the document had highly, commended his performance, and he said he's already satisfied the requirements and so on. So my question is this. We've already heard that there are differences in terms of the contents. The information provided is a lot more detailed for 2014, especially in respect of the participants. Now, if what I'm saying is not fair, please correct me. The word duly scrutinized, I think, is different from carefully scrutinized. Duly scrutinized means you simply conducted scrutiny according to the procedure. You dare not say that you've carefully scrutinized the documents. Does it mean that you've already, made a mistake before, and therefore you dare not use the word carefully scrutinized? Well, I think my colleagues have already explained that we would, this is only an ordinary letter we drafted, it's not a legal document. Of course, present today we have at least 3 members with a legal background. but for us, this is only, you know, a general document that we drafted. Every time we conduct our assessment, as Ms. Law said, we follow the same procedure. And this time we've said that we have noted the opinion of the Audit Commission, and that's why we've asked a colleague with an accounting background to help us draft the document. And because of this colleague with an accounting background helping us, we were able to work more efficiently. I'm not arguing over the legal terms, but I'm talking about the pattern. Why is it so odd that in the past 3 years you used the word terms carefully scrutinized, but this year, after you've carefully scrutinized all the documents, you did not claim that you've carefully scrutinized documents, but only have duly scrutinized documents? Is it that the case that you've actually exaggerated the effort that you made in previous years, and this year you've actually toned it down? We don't have such an intention, and we've never done this. Of course, we hope that every year we would have the Audit Commission helping you do the audit, but I'm afraid this is not what the administration can do. But apparently, we're given the impression that despite the fact that you've learned from the experience of the Harbour Fest, but when you actually, you know, organize these events, we have seen, you know, invoices and so on without the required details, but still you commended, you know, for example, Coach Sam's performance, and therefore he claimed that he shouldn't be financially penalized. Now, we're looking more carefully at the documents. You've submitted more documents. The wordings that you've used are more careful this time. So what conclusion should we draw from that? I want to give them an opportunity to explain. Perhaps I can ask one more question. When you prepared the report this year, did you have the opportunity to communicate with the applicant or the organizers, Deputy Commissioner? Every time we would liaise with the organizers, otherwise it would not be possible for us to check the invoices or ask for supplementary documents, or if the report is submitted contain, you know, irregularities or ambiguities, we would not have been able to communicate and clarify with them. So therefore, we would liaise with the organizers for each and every of these projects. Did you personally, were you personally involved, or which of your colleagues was involved in communicating with the organizers? I personally had not any communication with the organizers, as in previous years, the auditing work was done by the Secretariat of the MVF. Our Secretary, Ms. Mo, is also present here. So we already told the Commission that we have 6 colleagues not working full-time. They do not just dedicate all the efforts on the MBF, but it was these 6 colleagues who did that. So could your Secretariat tell us whom did they liaise with, and what was the extent of the liaison?
Normally, when we received the report, as explained by the Commissioner, well, could you maybe move the microphone closer to you? We can't hear you. I and the colleagues in the Secretariat liaised with the contact point in the organizer. We ask questions where there are unclear points. We asked them questions when we were going through the documents with them. In relation to the time, the approach, and depth of the inquiries of this year, is it different from the past 3 years? Ms. Mo? I did not participate in each of the 3 years or 4 years. And as the Deputy Commissioner explained, we used the past practice. We did not jot down the time used and number of questions asked. So in relation to the last correspondence, whether the objectives has been met and whether the funding should be dispersed, who wrote this letter? It's signed by you. It's signed by me, yes. Usually it's drafted by the Secretariat. Secretariat has vetted the information, submitted the information to the assessment committee, and it's approved by the controlling officer. And the letter itself is a conclusion of all that. Please don't take it as a criticism. We see that this year you have put in a lot more effort, and the depth of your inquiries and monitoring has improved. What we're trying to do is whether there is appropriate and adequate communication and appropriate efforts made. So we're trying to see, well, this is the way forward, yes, as well. Every year we learn from the experience and put in place improvement measures. It's been 5 years since the MEF was put in place. Of course, we hope that next year will always be better than this year. And as to whether we have done more or less than previous years, well, I don't directly participate in communicating with the organization. I can say that we have taken on board the recommendations of the audit, and we will ask colleagues with an accounting background to help us. And it's not just about C4. In future events, of course, if we have dedicated staff to deal with that, it will be better. Otherwise, we'll still find colleagues with an accounting background to do this kind of work. Alan. In the last hearing, Mr. Chen Kam Lam supplied an email in relation to an extension to submit the reports. Should we paginate it for a record purpose? Yes. We just received it last Saturday, so we don't have a number for this document yet. Never mind, but please take that document out. Do you have it? Do you have it in front of you, Mr. Lam? And Mr. Chan, if not, can he be supplied one? Thank you. I want to ask Mr. Chan. Is this in the file of the Dragon and Lion extravaganza? Always? Yes. Always? So you retrieve it from the file? Yes? It's taken from my file. Prior to Saturday, this letter has not seen the light. Mr. Chan. Of course, I only retrieve it when it's necessary. Otherwise, no. Fine. I'd like the witness to look at this document. The date. Can you see the date? 5th line from above. It's 20th of January 2014, 5:21 p.m. It's a Monday. See it? Mr. Chan? Yes. Well, can I understand from the witness answer that since 5:21 p.m. on 20th of January 2014, this document has gone into the file of the Lion and Dragon extravaganza? Yes. I'd like the witness to look at the upper left-hand corner. There is a date, 2014, 17th of May. Can you explain this date? This is the date when the document was printed from the file. I just want to find out about the operation. What do you mean by printing from the email? Just now, as Ms. Mo said, they liaise with Ms. Fong. So this is sent to the secretary, the honorary secretary of the Lion and Dragon Extravaganza. The information was retrieved for the hearing. This is but even if you see page 1, Jan 22, important notes of the project evaluation report, you see that in the first point it says that it has to be completed within 4 months after the event. So this email is to show members why we submit the report within 4 months instead of 3. First, I'd like to put it to Mr. Chen Kam Lam that the agreement states 3 months is in Jan 8, not Jan 22. I will deal with that later. I also have a question for the Deputy Commissioner, but first let me clarify the dates. According to the testimony of Mr. Chan, since 5:21 p.m. on the 20th of January 2014, this email has been in the file of the Lion and Dragon Extravaganza. Then why is there a date, i.e. the 17th of May 2014? I don't understand. Can you explain? As I did explain just now, this is the date of printing. So when Mr. Chen said that this was filed on 20th of January, this wasn't filed with hard copy, just electronically. Yes. In whose computer? The recipient. You see it there, which is, that is the recipient. The recipient is April Fang. Is that right? Yes, April Fang. I think it's an email. It's sent from CEDB. That is Commerce and Economic Development Bureau. Ms. Judith W.Y. Lau. To an April Fang. April Fang is a secretary of the Dragon and Lion Extravaganza Preparatory Committee. Yes. In other words, there has never been any printout of this email. It's always filed in the hard drive of Miss April Fang's computer. Is that right? Most important thing is for me to know the content of this email in relation to the time when I should submit the report. Mr. Chen, when did you know that you had 4 months and not 3 months as stated in the agreement? The 20th of January, when after this email was sent. Alan? I have a question for the Deputy Commissioner. According to your evidence last Saturday, you talk about a typographical error. I want to know to which document and which piece of information were you referring to? Let me try to find it. Jan 8. Is agreement of event C4. Gen what? Gen 8. Page 27 is the handwritten number. Paragraph 12.2a. So where is the typo? I would like to refer you to Gen 8, page 33. Is paragraph 15.1d.
Survey report 呢啲呢就係4個月要提交嘅。12.2段喺27頁嗰度呢，就係講 audited accounts。
The other one, that is 12.2a, is the audited account. It's 3 months. So if you refer to event C3 event of 2013, you see that for both they are 4 months. Starting from 2014, as I explained, we have extended the period from 3 months to 4. However, unfortunately, in the 2014 document, Gen 8, page 27, we have left that out. We did not change it to 4 months. In the numerous audit we have done, normally the organizer would give us the audited account, the evaluation report, publicity report will be furnished together. That is in 4 months, and I apologize that there is this typo. Alan, can you compare this with the previous agreement, page 27 of Gen 7? (12.2a) 4 months was given to the preparatory committee to submit the audited report, right? Yes. Well, I suppose that you just copy and paste everything. For 2014 extravaganza, you would copy the agreement of 2013. So why would there be a typo, Deputy Commissioner? I admit that there should not be any mistakes in the first place when it's copy and paste. Normally, the Secretariat will find the previous record. I think on this occasion, it was based on an older record. I cannot explain why there is this mistake. Of course, we strive to make no mistakes. We don't want mistakes, and I can't explain why, of all places, this is the mistake. You agree that, of all places, this is where the mistake is made. I want it recorded. Of all places, this is the place. Because for 2013, 2014, it should be, well, you deliberately change it from 4 to 3. Well, that is my deduction, but the Deputy Commissioner did not agree with that. And from the unpaginated, unnumbered document, on the face of it, that on the 1st of January 2014, the event was completed, and now is an electronic form for you to fill in, and you have 4 months. Is that right, Deputy Commissioner? Yes. It seems, Deputy Commissioner, that the email dated the 20th of January was to correct the typo appearing in paragraph 12.2a. Starting from 2012, we have changed it to 4 months. So when the Secretariat sent the email, it was based on the 4-month period. and as to whether at that time the colleague has already spotted the mistake of three months, I cannot answer you. But I can tell you that starting from 2012, we have adopted the approach of 4 months.
Deputy Commissioner, I hope you understand that one of the things we want to establish in this public hearing is whether or not you just casually monitor the mega events. I think apparently this is exactly what you have done. But to be fair to the witness, let me, further clarify my question. In paragraph 2, you say at the beginning,
a mega event fund agreement, the completed evaluation report, blah, blah, blah. According to the MEF agreement, 當然係指而家文件夾 Gen 8嗰份文件啦。
Obviously, according to the document in Gen 8, in paragraph 12.2 in Gen 8, the document stipulates that it's for 3 months. Indeed, that is the case. Yeah, I'm also referring to the text of the documents. In 12.2, it says the deadline is 3 months. When you send out this email, shouldn't you have referred to paragraph 12.2 and say there is a typo there? And when I send out this email, I would like to rectify the period from 3 to 4 months. Wouldn't that be a natural expectation on our part that you would say that? Chairman, if my colleague had discovered the discrepancy, I would have the expectation that he would say it. But we don't understand. You don't have to allow them until the 1st of May. That's why I'm not sure when this email was being sent. I don't know whether or not my colleague had already discovered the typo. If he had done that, I would expect my colleague to make a clarification. Alan. So the staff who sent out this email, Judith Lau, that is, at least we can criticize her for simply send out this email casually. There is the MEF agreement. She didn't bother to look at it, and she simply gave a date of May the 1st. Is that the correct way to understand your evidence? Chairman, I did not say that. Could you show us more information as to why you needed to send out this email? Well, this would be the usual practice. For after the completion of each mega event, we always remind the organizer, and we will provide the organizer a template to fill in the assessment report. That would be the usual practice. Fine. I heard Mr. Wong said that this is a template. If this is a template, could you tell us as corroborating evidence, could you provide other letters, draft based on the same template for other events staged at the time? I said already that I'm referring to the soft copy of the evaluation form. So in other words, paragraph 2 is not part of the template. So it's not 4 months according to your contract. It's only for the evaluation report that is for 4 months. For the audited account, it's 3 months. Chairman, you fully understand my point. Chairman, I've already said that indeed this is a typo on our part. But the question is whether or not you have been careless, but as a government department, and from the value of money perspective, we need to find out whether or not there is, good corporate governance, because a major error has been made. So it's not a simple question of, misreading the contract. So I think to be fair to you and to everybody, we would like to know what are the facts. Alan. I also like to point out to the witness that the date on the top left-hand corner, that is the 17th of May 2014, is the very first day when we started the hearing on the Dragon and Lion dance extravaganza. This is indeed a coincidence. Could you explain why we have this coincidence, Mr. Chen Kam Lam? Chairman, this is not a surprise at all. Well, this email originally was already stored in the computer. If I asked her to print it out on that day, then it was the date on which it was printed. Alan, you were participating the hearing here. You knew that this committee is very concerned about the 3 months and 4 months deadline, and did you call this April Fang to print it out, or did you ask her to print it out after the hearing on the day, or was it printed out on the following day? Could you tell us how exactly this was done? It was printed on the 17th of May. You instructed this person to print it out. Did you call her up? I can clearly say that it has nothing to do with this hearing. Alan, well, that's what I meant when I said this is, a strange coincidence. It has nothing to do with this hearing, according to your evidence. So you did not know. So you didn't know whether the deadline should be the 30th of April, the 8th of May, or the 30th of March. That was not relevant. And by coincidence, this was printed out on the 17th of May, out of the hard disk of your computer. Wouldn't you say this is rather strange, Chairman? Even if the date coincides with the date of the hearing, so what? What we need to know most of all is that the MUF had once sent me such an email, and then I will submit my report in 4 months. It's as simple as that, Alan. I believe the witness understand why I asked this question. But if you pretend not to understand, I can further explain. And this is also to be fair to yourself. What I'm thinking is this. This document was prepared afterwards or subsequently. I understand this is a serious allegation. That's why I need to ask the question so carefully, and I had given the witness sufficient opportunities to clarify my questions or queries. Director of Audit, have you ever seen this document before? Thank you, Chairman. I'll need to take a look first. Has the Director of Audit ever seen this document before? We're checking now. Alan? I think the administration should have a record of the emails sent out. So I think we can ask for that record. Good. I think that could resolve the problem. Andrew? If it were an email sent out by our colleagues, it would be in the government's computer. I would also like Mr. Chen Kam Lam to help the committee, because these could be rather routine matters. Mr. Chen is a busy man. He may not know how this actually operated. Or if this April Fang has not yet left his employment, or if anybody has received instruction on the 17th of May from Mr. Chen Kam Lam to have this document printed, could we ask that person explain how the date as it appeared on the top left-hand corner of the document came about? Chairman, I can certainly ask my colleagues about this date on the document and what it was automatically generated from the printer. What we see here is the information in the email, and these are not fabricated as alleged by Mr. Leung. It's printed. It's actually a printout of a genuine email. Chairman, I think my time for this slot is almost up, but I would like Mr. Chen to seriously consider this. That is on the 17th of April, when he was attending the hearing of this committee. Was it at that time or afterwards did he instruct his staff to print out this document? Because the date to me is really too much of a coincidence, especially according to Mr. Chen's evidence is that this has nothing to do with the hearing. So I'm even more puzzled. You say if it is relevant, then I can understand, because early on he had not focused his attention on this document. Since we asked whether or not it was 3 months or 4 months, and whether or not he had 1 month to make up the figures. So if you say, well, if you've heard that in the hearing and you went back and asked it to be printed out from the document, we can understand. But if Mr. Chen say that this has nothing to do with the hearing, then Mr. Chen, please think carefully when you give this instruction to your colleague. Was it relevant to this hearing, or was the instruction given during the course of that hearing or after that hearing? I think that would really be helpful to the committee. Mr. Chen Kam Lam, I hope Mr. Alan Leong would not try to confuse the facts and think that, no, I think you just need to answer Mr. Leong's question, yes, but I also like to clarify the facts. I think the most relevant the most crucial question is the date on this document. The first date is the 20th of January, the date on which the email was sent. And the second date is the 4 months period as it appears in the document. These are the 2 dates that I'm most concerned about. So whether it's printed out on the 17th of May or the 7th of May or the 7th of June, this is entirely irrelevant to the hearing. So when you read this document, did you think that it was 3 months or 4 months? So in your mind, that is, I think according to the agreement with the MBF, it was 3 months. So did you think that the deadline was 3 months or 4 months? Chairman, I'm also very stringent regarding the enforcement of the contract. I fully understand that according to Section 12.2 of the agreement, our audit report would need to be submitted in 3 months. But there is another provision saying that the deadline is 4 months. Regarding the discrepancy for the reports of 2013 and 2014, I was aware of that. Of course, when I received this email on the 20th of January, I knew even more clearly that all my reports would have to be submitted within 4 months. That was what transpired. In that case, is this email sent out by the administration upon the request of Mr. Chen Kam Lam?
Deputy Commissioner, no, definitely not. And we have already supplied the email in January 20th. Yes. Why did you send this email on the 20th of January? Is it because you spotted the typo? The typo in inverted commas as mentioned by the Deputy Commissioner? Or is it because that at the end there will be a pro forma or a letter sent from a template, or what? If you cannot give me an answer now, can you give me an answer, a written reply later? Every time after an event, we will send out a similar email, because, well, Mr. Leung said that it looks like a template, but it's not. It says that I attach the report form soft copy for completion by the organizer. Every time after the event, we have to supply the report form in soft copy to the organizer. So we send the email every time. It is not exactly the same every time, but we will send a similar email after each event. So this is not sent upon the request of anyone, including the organizer. It's only because we have to send the soft copy of the report form to the organizer for completion. 13 out of 24 events submit their report late. Maybe you give us the information about the delay of each event. There are 12 events. Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you. I would like to ask some questions about the funding. First, well, I see that of the many audited events, when the second disbursement was made, it was approved in the form of lump sum. Maybe because a certain percentage may be deducted because of various reasons. That's why the fund is disbursed by two installments. That we always deal with it like it's a lump sum. If you disperse the amount in a lump sum, well, we find that on this occasion for event C4, there are dozens of pages with all the names of the participants. But for C1 to C3, there is only one page saying that there are 1,200 people or 2,100 people participating. And for event G, there are two sums. 320,000 and another 100,000 or so. There was no invoice or supporting document. However, the sum was disbursed. Do you agree that with this lump sum disbursement, it's a huge loophole? Deputy Commissioner, can you explain to Mr. Chan what the scope of the lump sum is, and what are the sums to be audited? For, say, for example, for one is 5 million, you will vet the million. And for the sum 1.5 million, maybe there are some conditions or restrictions, say, for example, items A, B, C, D, buildings of this and construction of this and that. Can you give us the information? You were asked about the lump sum. You have to explain. When we approve the amount, we decide the sum, and we will pay half of it, up to half. No, we pay in general maximum funding ceiling. For C4, the maximum funding ceiling is 1.5 million. And prior to the event and after the agreement was signed, half of the 1.5 million, that is 750,000, would be given to the organizer to pay bills. After the event, after we have received all the reports, sorry, you're talking about two things. 1.5 million. 1.5 million is not the entire expenditure. It's only 50% of the total expenditure. And you give them 25%. No, that is not the case. Say, the examples cited on Saturday, say 8 million. It may only be 1/4 of the expenditure of the event. So it's not accurate to say that we only fund 50% of the total expenditure. We will not fund more than half of the expenditure of the mega event. But it may not be more than half of the total expenditure of the event. I have not answered Mr. Chan's question yet. Please refer to 1.8. Paragraph 1.8.
Funding at 50% of the total cost for
呢個
each
説法係並
event.
不準確嘅，主席。
This is not accurate. This is not accurate. Don't say that it is not accurate. Did you explain to the audit for 1.8 the ceiling of the government funding is capped at 50% and is of the total cost. So it may be less than the half of the total expenditure. But then don't say that it's inaccurate. So if you say that we will definitely fund half of the expenditure, that is not correct. But it's not. They are not mutually exclusive. It's capped at 50%, and that's what the Deputy Commissioner said. It's half. So the ceiling will not be more than half of the total expenditure. And in some cases, it's less than half. Maybe I will answer Mr. Chan's question. For some events, 50%. Here it says the maximum will not be more than half of 50%. You ask about the half and the lump sum. Well, after we have given half of the funding ceiling, half. Please continue. After we have dispersed that the event will proceed, after all the reports have been submitted, including the independent auditor's report, containing all information about income and expenditure, not just in relation to the area funded by the MEF. We look at the entire event, and in the assessment report or the evaluation report, we will have to see whether the targets have been met. So during the evaluation, we look at the individual items on top of the overall picture to assess the effectiveness of the event. Of course, we would like to get positive media report to attract visitors. We look at many areas and not just the accounts. Mr. Chan, do you think your question has been answered? We look at the overall picture before we decide whether the event has met our requirement and all the targets. If not, the Secretariat of the MEF will, depending on the situation, follow the guideline and make a suggestion to the assessment committee whether a financial sanction or other sanctions should be imposed. I don't think you have answered Mr. Chan's question, although he said that you have. I think he has answered my question, and I want to ask a follow-up question. I am a member of some government funds, and I've also dealt with some applications to district councils. When it comes to disbursements, or when you are looking at the report of an activity, you will look at the budget of a breakdown, and if the actual expenditure exceeded the budget, the budgeted amount in the committees I've sat in, they will not disperse more than the budget. And if you have underspent, you will not be given the difference. So please refer to Gen 22, page 26, where Gen 22, page 26 is 9 and 10. This is just an example. Say venue rent. It's budgeted for 50,000, but the actual expenditure is 14,100, so it's below budget. If you refer to transportation, the budgeted amount is 20,000, and the actual expenditure was 51,828. Well, under the principle of accountable expenditure, you will not be given the amount overspent, and you will not be given the amount that have not been actually incurred. So you cannot use you cannot cross-subsidize the items. Based on this principle, it seems that it is a frequent occurrence in the many events audited by the audit. If you use breakdown, then you can avoid overspending, and you can avoid the incident of Mr. Cole, that is the $92,000 and the $32,000, the messy sums. So why did you not use an accountable basis? Why did you use a lump sum approach? Deputy Commissioner, you did not answer his question. That's why you're asked the same question again. Can you explain? Under Gen 8, what are included? You look at the individual sums, or you look at the total? There is no explicit condition forbidding cross-subsidizing. Especially at the beginning, they are for the application of local NGOs and non-profit making organizations. We don't expect such non-profit making organizations to act like companies or enterprises, that is, to have a very detailed account. We know that, say for example, there is a budgeted amount for equipment rental or venue rental. However, they may be able to get sponsored. They may be able to get sponsorship, or they may have overspent in equipment rental. It's not the case that we have not made inquiries. Whenever there is an exceedance of 10% or underspending of 10% of the budgeted amount, we will ask the organizer to explain to us. If we find the explanation acceptable, we would leave it at that. Otherwise, we will not accept the under or over spending, and we will make adjustments. We have to give them a little bit flexibility, because we know that they will not be able to spend the same amount as the budgeted amount. When we organize activities, very often we will put in a little bit more in the budgeted amount. And if these organizations know about the flexibility, of course they will give themselves a bit of elbow room in the budget. Do you think that this will, in a way, reduce the accuracy of the budget, and it also gives rise to possibility of inflated amounts? Well, my member's concern is not totally unfounded, but when we receive the budget and before the agreement was signed, we would look over, we would go through the accounts with the organizer to make sure that in general the items are reasonable. Say, venue rent, we have an idea how much it would cost, especially if it is a government venue. What we cannot cater for is like this situation. That is, when an organizer can find sponsors, which is something we encourage. If a sponsorship is secured, that means that they will not be able to, they will be able to pay less than they have to. And we will see how they explain it, and if we find their explanation reasonable, then we would agree with that. And before the event, we would go over the accounts with them.
Chairman, I'd like to turn to another subject. I'd like to follow up on the point raised by Mr. Chen. I think in 4.14H, I think the problem actually has happened. Paragraph 4.14, you have $280,000 which have been underspent, and that should have been returned to the administration. But this is not returned to the administration. Instead, it was returned to the sponsor. Mr. Chen made a very good suggestion, reflecting that there is indeed this problem. Mr. Chen, are you going to ask a question on this one? Well, Chairman, since you started it, I'll let you ask this question. I think this is a question, which follows on your earlier question. That is the problem that you've just identified. Well, is it the case that such a situation would arise? My understanding is that this is not the case. I agree that this is a very good suggestion. We'll certainly consider whether we can impose more restrictions on the applicants. But why is it that you have this scenario in 4.14H? 4.14H, our colleagues, of course, have taken a look, and my understanding is that the organizer had found the sponsor who was willing to actually, pay for the difference. But nobody, including the organizer, could guarantee that the MEF will disperse the full amount of the funding. If in the course of our scrutiny we find that there are certain, if we say that certain targets have not been met, as in the case of C4, we impose a financial sanction on the organizer. So I think the organizer explained to them that they're not sure that we will disperse 100% of our funding, and therefore he's found a sponsor. When we issued a letter saying that they've achieved the target, and we will release the full amount of the funding, then the money deposited by the sponsor to the organizer would become a surplus. We've already told the organizer that this is wrong. This practice is wrong. We understand that this is what had happened. But I think the organizer has a duty to report everything to you. If you look at the contract. Alan, could you help me, Chairman? If I may assist, Chairman, is clause 14. All the money deposited have been deposited in the form of trust. It belongs to the government. It's a trust. That would be the surplus. That is, we would agree to allow them to retain that surplus. Well, I'm saying that it's a sponsor, offering to pay for any difference. Now we're not, pointing an accusing finger at anyone, but we just want to ensure that such anomalies will not happen again in future. If one look at the contract, I think, according to the agreement, the organizer would need to report anything which has happened to you. If he's found a sponsor, then at least you should have known, and then we wouldn't have the scenario as what happened in 4.1 4H. Thank you. Mr. Chen. I'd like to follow up on what the Deputy Commissioner said just now. Under the MEF, there are 6 dedicated staff who would monitor such fundings. So for these officers, when they, vetted the final portion of the funding, what would be the rank of these staff who would study the report and decide whether or not deductions would need to be made from the funding? In our secretariat, we start from the administrative officers down to the executive officer at SA AO class 2 level. So they would make the observations or recommendations to the controlling officer, namely the permanent secretary, to make recommendation to the assessment committee. Well, in my experience, when the screening for the project proposed is done by an administrative officer, would that be the case for the MEF? I'm sorry, Mr. Chen, could you, what do you mean by screening work? Let's say there might be 100 projects proposed, and of course you would have colleagues who respond for going through all those proposals and select some appropriate suitable projects for the committee to assess. It would not be possible to ask Mr. Chen, the chairman, to look at all 100 proposals. Well, our fund had not received that many applications. Every time we will receive about 8 to 10 or maximum a dozen or so applications. And we explained already during the first hearing our workflow. That is, our colleagues will first of all check whether or not these proposals satisfy the 4 basic requirements, namely whether or not it can attract tourists coming to Hong Kong, whether or not it can attract 10,000 participants, whether or not it's run by local NGOs. Those are the basic requirements, and our secretariat staff would do that. The 6 colleagues which I referred to just now, so long as they satisfy these basic requirements, or if they're likely to satisfy these requirements, we would refer such cases to the assessment committee. I understand, Deputy Commissioner. I'll simply ask a simple question here. In recommending these events, are the same staff who would make the recommendation to accept these proposals and also approve the funding? No, it's not really recommendation. So long as they satisfy the conditions, if they more or less are likely to satisfy the conditions, we will allow these proposals to be forwarded to the assessment committee. So we will not screen any of these applications or proposals. It's a good thing, screening. Chairman, I have one last question. So whether it's event C, which has been organized for 4 years, and the MEF has subvented the Dragon Boat races for many years, when your colleagues look at the financial report submitted, they may detect certain inadequacies. Since you only have 6 staff looking at these reports, not a very large number, and they also have to also involved in the early stage of the approval of these projects. So if you have projects which were staged in previous years and which were not very satisfactory, would they reflect their observation to the assessment committee for reference? And if not, why have they not done that? Because these mega events are done every year on year. Chairman. Of course, members will note that some of the events were staged every year. But even if they were staged under the same name, we would ask them to introduce new items and come up with new ideas. Say, for example, C1 to C4, the events are different every year. And because, they will change from lion to dance, to dragon, and then to the Buddha. Right. What about the Dragon Boat races? Yes, we would also for example, bring in dragon boat races for the handicap, or we might stage international tournament at the state level, or members might have also participated in the so-called bathtub race. So there are new ideas every year, so that hopefully we would like to make it more and more popular event. Would you inform? Well, in some cases you would turn down certain applications. Yes. If they had performed poorly in previous years, we would tell them not to bother to apply again in future. You've already said that there have been a few cases where the applications were refused. Kenneth, thank you. I'd like the witness to go to Jan 22, page 196. Again, I'm looking at the income and expenditure account. Since the chairman asked me to look at the accounts, I'm looking at the accounts now. This is the account for C4. I would also like members to go to page 125 of Gen 7. That will be the account for 2013. And again, I'd like to bother members by asking you to go to Gen 6, page 39 of Gen 6. That will be the 2012 accounts for C2. Again, it's a similar income and expenditure account. And finally, well, since I need to compare the accounts for the four years. Sorry, 139. Page 139. Page 139. What, page 139? Income and expenditure. You can treat it as P&L. Gen 6 and Gen 7, right? Gen 22, Gen 7, and Gen 6. And finally, I'd like to also refer members to one last set of account, that is for the account for C1. And this is at Gen 5 at page 257. All right, go ahead. Okay. Let's start with 2014, the most recent event. During the last hearing, the Deputy Commissioner said, and also in the hearing before that, she told us about the funding for the MEF events, and most of them would be expenses for promotion and publicity. Looking at the accounts, would you agree that the two items, advertising and promotion, would make up the major bulk of the expenses? Yes, generally that would be the case.
So, in relation to advertising and promotion, the vetting is quite vigorous. Is that right? We do our best. What do you mean by doing your best? There are 24 events and you only have 6 people. As I explained, we will do our best to do random checks on the invoices, and if it is a major event, we will do as much as we can. There is an audited report. You have to make that clear first. And in the audited report, and then you do something else, let me remind you, take your time. That's what you said last time. Yes, I remember the answer. I was going to say that we would look at them ourselves, but we could not do everything ourselves. That's why we have a requirement for them to furnish an audited report. And we do our best because we can't possibly do what the auditor has done. Yes, there is an auditor, and you, of course, will do something as well. when the auditor, was it done before the auditor was doing his work, during or after? I mean, when it comes to going through the invoices. We can only do it after all the reports have been furnished by the organizer. That means, for this year's auditing work, has it started yet? Yes. When was the audited report submitted to you? The 7th of May. So just about a month and you've already completed your work. Yes, and a letter was sent as well, the one sent on the 24th. The 4th of June. I would like to ask the administration or Mr. Chan Kam Lam, do you know that when it comes to advertising and promotion, what is the difference? To me, advertising is promotion, promotion is advertising. How do you differentiate the two items? And in your account, every year it makes up the lion's share. Say, for example, for the 4 accounts, it accounts for about 40 to 50% of the expenditure. Kenneth, last time we asked them for some figures. Maybe they are preparing them. Okay, I would leave that for next time after they've given us the information. But do you notice that over the past 4 years, from C1, 3 million, second year, 2.8 million, third year, 3.2 million, and fourth year, 2.9 million. Mr. Chan, there is little fluctuation in the figure over the 4 years. Is that right, Mr. Chan? The event completed and we get this figure. C1 to C3, promotion. Promotion. C1, C2, C3 over the 3 years. It only accounts for just over 10%. Say C1. Look at C1. Page 257, that is the accounts for C1, is in Gen 5. For promotion is 310,000. So it's about 10% of the overall amount. For the second year, Gen 6 promotion is 374,000. The total expenditure is 2.8 million. It's 13.3%. It's reasonable. The third year, if you look at C3, that is page 125 in Gen 7. Promotion is $369,625. The total expenditure is $3,235,000. I made a calculation. It accounts for 11.4%. So every year is quite stable, from 10% to 13%. My question is, how come this year, Gen 22, page 196, promotion has jumped to 713,000, while the total expenditure is 2.9 million. It's over 24% of the total expenditure. Did you reclassify certain items? How come there is a jump in the promotion expenditure, you said that, yes, the event has changed. But no, you will not all of a sudden spend a lot more on advertisements. In every event, we have placed advertisements on TV broadcast fees. For every year is different. The government funding is mainly used on two areas: promotion and enrichment of the event. So if you only look at promotion, after I give all the invoices and receipts to the auditor, for the auditor to itemize them for me. I'm not in a position to argue with the auditor after he has classified or itemized them. When the information is supplied to the MEF, we have given the items to ask for disbursement. They are all supported. I don't understand. According to the funding agreement, you have to keep your books, so not just invoices and receipts. Mr. Chan, do you have a dedicated team to keep the books? You can't just put the thousands of invoices in a paper box and give them to the auditors for audit. If the auditor has prepared the accounts for you, then it's not an independent auditor, because the job done by that auditor is that of an accountant. Please think before you answer, Mr. Chan. I'm not an accountant, nor do I know how an accountant or an auditor checks my accounts. You are a professional, so you should know that I am only a convener of the preparatory committee. All I could do was to instruct my team to give all the invoices to the auditor to check the figures. Can I ask you, would you need more than 5 minutes? Maybe we can extend it by 15 minutes. Oh, you all know it's 7:30, yes? Yes, seems that I'm the only one who doesn't know. I'm not asking Mr. Chan to have some accounting knowledge, but if you refer to 12.1, in all the agreements, 12.1, the third line says that the grantee should prepare a full and proper books and record.
Two bloody different things. So 我唔係話係你。
So I'm not saying that it's your direct responsibility, but you have contractual responsibility to enable the person responsible to prepare a full and proper account supported by invoices and receipts, and you have the duty to furnish the receipts and invoices to the independent auditor. So my simple question is whether you have given the accounts to an independent auditor. Mr. Kenneth Leung is an accountant, so he sees things as more complicated than I see it. To me, it's very simple. I receive invoices, I sign checks, and they're all given to the auditor for the preparation of an auditor's report, you talk about books, invoices. I'm sorry. I do have all the records. Sorry, can I interrupt? Well, in short, do you have the books? Or they've been burned? This is a simple one-off event. It's not like the operation of a company with numerous expenditures. For us, it's very simple. You receive on one hand and you incur expenses on the other. So do you have books? We have all the records. Can you give us the information? Say, for example, C4, do you have the actual books in copies or in the original form for us to look at? Because it says clearly in the agreement that you are required to keep books, whether it's a simple set of accounts or a complicated set of accounts. I understand that this is a one-off event, not of a large scale. You may only have just 2 or 3, one for cash, the other one for other expenditures. I don't think that you would simply keep boxes of invoices and receipts and stubs of checks for your auditor to prepare the audited account, because this in no way can be construed as proper books and accounts. So can Mr. Chan convince us by showing us the accounts? So Mr. Chan, do you have the books? If you do, can you show them to us? Our colleagues made a proper list of all the invoices, everything typed out and given to the auditor. I can tell you that we have no books. And we have all the invoices paginated, filed properly. Mr. Chan, can you give us copies of your invoices and receipts? We asked for that last time. Chairman, but invoices? Well, I don't know which year you're talking about. We're talking about a 700,000 one. Okay, yes, I agree. Yes, I was shocked when you said that you wanted all the invoices. Well, you wanted invoices to explain why the figure has jumped from 300,000 to 700,000. We try to see how your needs can be met. No, not just mine. I think the audit knows what I'm talking about. I know that there are no books. It doesn't matter whether the books are burned or lost. I just want some answers. I've finished on this part. I'll let other members ask questions. We still have quite some time. Mr. Alan Leung, almost exhausted. His time about the 2 conditions, that is 12.21 and 15.1D. I would like to draw the attention to the Deputy Commissioner, say for example Gen 5 to Gen 8, in relation to the agreements. I've read them in detail. Yes, they are quite different. For 12.21 is 3 months, 3 months, 4 months and 3 months, and under 15.1D is 3 months, 3 months, 4 months and 4 months. If you say it's a typo, well, one of the question was whether you deliberately changed the figure for this year. If it's only copy and pasting, then maybe from which year you made the copy mattered. at the time when the fund was set up in 2009 and prior to the extension in 2012, the agreement says 3 months and 3 months. That is under 12.2 and 12.1 and 15.1. And after 2012, for both parts, it's extended to 4 months. And for C4, in the agreement in 12.1, it says 3 months. So C1 is 3 months, 3 months, yes. C2, 3 months, 3 months, yes. C3, 4 months, 4 months, yes. And C4, it should read 4 months and 4 months, but we've made a mistake, so we see 3 months and 3 months.
Thank you very much. That's very clear and will not leave us in doubt. I'd like to also follow up on the figures referred to by Mr. Kenneth Leung. We can at the same time look at Jan 22 in respect of the letter which I alluded to earlier on, and the last letter, right? The letter dated the 4th of June. This time, I think you've used the term duly scrutinized, whether it's carefully or duly, never mind. Having looked at the accounts, you discovered that there is an amount of $4,000 of sponsorship where you say you made a mistake, you need to take it out. You say that it is in principle that the subsidy funding should not be more than half of the total expenditure, and therefore you made some deductions out of the total funding you've given for this event. And since they failed to meet the target, you deduct a further 7% of the funding. I think you understand what I'm referring to. So my question is that if these figures are so important, and this time we've made some detailed adjustments. We're looking at C1, C2, and C3. Apparently all the figures are rounded figures. It's not as... would it be the case that in previous years there would have been deductions that you should have made, but you have not made the deductions? Chairman, we would do our best in the scrutiny every year, but this time it is different from previous years because we have a colleague with an accounting background to help us, and therefore his professional expertise can help us here. We can see that the $4,755 for this item, whether or not it should be treated, should be entered under the income and also the expenditure column. It's something that required is a wisdom that is a decision that should be made by someone with an accounting background. So I think in going forward we'll also do that. Well, we've already had experience of Harbour Fest, followed by so many years of experience from C1 to C3, and it's only this year that you are willing to, put in some extra effort to find someone with an accounting background to check their accounts. So how much, unnecessary how much money have we spent unnecessarily in the last 3 years? We would expect that the report can help us. But for C1 to C3 to C4, it's the same independent auditor was engaged. But previously, you only, trusted the auditor. But this time, you deploy people to check the figures, and now we see these drastic changes. So is it because that you have not really done your job seriously in previous years? Chairman, if we could, of course, we are responsible for monitoring many different organizations, and there is no requirement within the administration that we must have professional accountants to help us deal with these accounts. Of course, if we do, then it does help, as in this case. But we will need to look at the operation of each fund. If we need to deploy more staff with professional background on monitoring these events, then of course we will need to incur more expenditure in managing such funds. And this is also what members are concerned when we come to electrical to apply for funding. Members very often will ask how much the funding will be spent on the administrative aspect, or how much will be actually used to fund the event. All along for the MEF, we have been relying on our colleagues, and since this time we have discovered these problems, but we still need to do it because the problem has occurred. As the Deputy Commissioner said, we will try our best to find resources so that we can hire someone with an accounting background to help us. Hopefully that the outcome will be better. Chairman, but this time when we look at the accounts were submitted at a very late stage, and yet within a matter of only a month you've been able to achieve such good results. So the question is why over the years you've not even thought of making such a small investment. With the involvement of an auditor, you could have done a lot better. The chairman asked us to really do this properly before the start of the inquiry. Well, that's because we need to publish the report within 3 months, and we want them to be able to work in tandem with us, and we put a lot of pressure on them to submit the report to us. So we need to then put pressure on the relevant departments. Okay, if I may now go to my next question. Looking at all these figures, the most crucial, obviously, would be the allowances for over the last 3 years for C1, C3, and C3 for the dancing team. For C1, they're all rounded figures. 1.5 million, C2, 803,000, C3, 143,300, or C4 is not an even number. 732,340. So what conclusion can we draw from that? Mr. Cheng Kam Lam, Chairman, we would arrive at these figures after aggregating the numbers submitted to us by the organizers, and then the auditor would check the accounts, and then we arrive at these figures, and then we would give these figures to the co-organizers. We're not saying that these figures must be of rounded numbers. All these are backed up by proper invoices. Mr. Kenneth Leung spent quite a bit of time on the expenses on advertising and promotion. And the conclusion is that this year, apparently, there had been a drastic jump on the expenditure relating to promotion. I also note that for this year, for the number of performing teams, the amount paid to the performers, 732,340, there has been a drastic reduction. So, I mean, based on my objective analysis, some of the figures, the figures for the performers, the money has been wired to the item under promotion. I don't think you can wire the amount like this. Right from the outset, when we approach the the companies to help us with the promotion, all those have been decided at an early stage, and the two items of expenditure are separate from each other. Promotion expenses and the expenses on the dancing teams could not be mixed up. So they are two separate set of figures. Or maybe you're tired, but you've already explained that it was $1.4 million because in previous years there were lions and dancers, but this time it's just the Buddha face, and you also hire fewer number of people. There were only 600 lions. Chairman, if I explain this, it would be better for the record. So he asked whether or not the money could be the funding, the money could be moved from one item to another. I think if you do not explain, if you do not clarify what I said earlier on, then we could easily come to that conclusion. Yeah, the figures cannot be, yeah, he would simply ask you to give a clearer answer so that it can help us when we draft the report. The Deputy Commissioner and Mr. Kenkam Lam, my question for the two of you is that previously and on more than one occasion, it was pointed out that the actual expenses have nothing to do with it's not related to your funding. The funding was given to the organization concerned for promotion. I'd like to ask members whether this is a fair comment. That is, because there is a ceiling to your funding, which is no more than 50% of all the expenditure incurred. If the expenditures has gone up, so whatever the item of expenditure, so the amount of subsidy will also go up correspondingly. If the total expenditure amount has gone down, as we see according to the letter of June the 4th, you have to make some adjustments. You also, lower the amount of the funding dispersed. I think Mr. Leung asked the same question. You check up the numbers and then you cut it down again. And Mr. Allen Leung also asked the same question last time. Yeah, Chairman, I think the question last time was that it would make the easier for the project to be approved. But this time, if you increase the amount of expenditure, then the funding would also go up. If the projected expenditure is increased, and after the project is completed, after they have finalized the accounts, if the expenses were are not as much as originally projected, then we'll need to look at the actual amount spent rather than dispersing the funding according to the amount that they have claimed in this application. So our Secretariat would, from a layman's angle, look at these items in the proposal and see whether they're reasonable. And after the project is completed, we'll look at the actual expenses incurred and not the expenditure as proposed in the application. Could you, with the help of the letter dated the 4th of June, further explain? Chairman, the mega event, the third paragraph, ABC, the fourth paragraph 4. Originally, we had committed to provide a maximum funding of 1.5 million. And after we have concluded our assessment, we found out that the project itself had spent $2.8 million. $1,438,695. That's the figure. So that is already less than the ceiling of 1.5 million. So it's not the case that if we have committed to fund $1.5 million, we would automatically give the same amount.
I wasn't talking about the budget. I was talking about the actual expenditure. If it's above that, then it would affect the 50% ceiling. And in the end, they will get more. In the past 3 years, when it comes to auditing the expenditure, vetting the expenditure, the identity of the participants, documentary proof, I think you have fallen short of your duty. This in turn affected whether this has affected the money spent. People are concerned whether you have spent money where it's not necessary. We emphasized one point in the hearing. there is a professional independent auditor's report. The organizer submitted an evaluation report. If the budget is different from the actual expenditure by 10% more or less, we would require the organizer to offer an explanation. On this occasion, were they asked to explain? Yes. When we vetted the event, we found that there is more spent on promotion. It's 700,000, whereas in previous years it's about 300 to 400,000. We asked questions about where the money was spent on. And apart from advertising, well, there are many things under promotion, pamphlets included. And if it's related to the event, it will be under the scope. One of the objectives of the fund is to enrich the content of the event. And this year, the explanation given by the organizer was that when it comes to the performance production of Big Buddha's head, they have spent more. And that includes the costume, because I believe that there aren't many suppliers of the Buddha's head's costumes, so they may have to source it elsewhere. We're talking about over 1,000 of the Big Buddha's head, and it's about 300,000 or so, 300,000 or so, and 300 for each Big Buddha. And there is also expenditure for the flags and the fans. Members were asking about this, but you did not offer this information. But the answer was given by the organizer. Whoever it came from, it's a fact. You are very clear about the figures. Is 300 each, and that explains the 300,000. All our time is precious. Please make use of our time and your time. Take the initiative to answer questions. We are not scary. I would like to ask some more questions in response to the Deputy Commissioner's answer. You gave us some figures, but shouldn't they be known well in advance? And that's related to production. Why is it under promotion and not production? In the evaluation report, the expenditure was set out, and it is clear. And as to how this is itemized in the auditor's report, well, we respect the approach of the auditor preparing the independent auditor's report. In Gen 20, 4.1c, I want to ask some questions of Mr. Chan Kam Lam. In the application form, in relation to the $300,000, it wasn't itemized under promotion but project budget. But later, it's changed. Paul has asked a very good question. Where did they come from? It's changed from project cost to promotion. Deputy Commissioner, you should know very well these figures. You have duly scrutinized these figures. You see that it's moved to promotion. If you have given us the answer earlier, we would not have spent half an hour on this. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, for the clarification. However, there are more questions to be asked as a result. It's supposed to be production cost. How come it's moved to promotion? You don't, even if you look at it with common sense, you will ask this question. And this time, you have studied it very carefully. You simply accept their explanation without asking any questions. Under the agreement, it's said that when it comes to C4, the funding is for two things: for promotion locally and overseas of the event, and the second is to enrich the event content. All along, when it comes to production cost or additions, it can be grouped under the enrichment of the event content. We accept these items in the application, and we accept those items in the evaluation report. But as to why it appears under promotion in the independent auditor's report, I can't answer you. And our colleagues did asked questions as to how this figure 700,000 came from. In the forms, it says other direct expenditure, production cost of big Buddha's heads, performance costumes, 350,000. That is the breakdown. Is that how the audit saw it? You may refer to the application form. And then as a result, it's put under promotion cost. No, it's not put under production by the audit commission. No, I was asking whether that's how you saw it. You did not look into this? I thought they've gone over everything. Paul? That's her answer. Yes, I understand your principle. But then it makes the scope really wide. Any expenditure that enrich the event content is something that you can subsidize. How can we count on you that these criteria are objective? I think we approach it with layman's common sense. No. It appears on the application form. Don't say that it's common sense. They appear in documents. Gen 22. Page 25. Don't just answer questions without thinking. Please refer to Gen 22, page 25. We accepted the itemization in the application form and the evaluation report. Well, then explain. You don't base it on common sense. In the application form, they budgeted for 350,000, and the actual expenditure is 316,000. I'm only helping you find the figures. Paul, I still have some questions. It seems that the definition of sponsorship, apart from promotion, publicity, there is a second part, enrichment. It means that any cost, production, manpower can be said to be an enrichment of the event, and hence under the scope of the fund. Can you answer Mr. Chair's question? When we're looking into the budget, the agreement with the organizer to go over the items to see if they are reasonable, we made it clear to the organizer what are under the scope of the MEF and what not. And that's been made very clear. So they can't, after the event, add something to it when it wasn't under the scope in the first place. But you have an idea how much will be spent on the big head Buddha, and well, originally it's not under the scope of the event, and later this has been put under promotion and hence subsidized by the fund. And you say that, well, because it enriched the event. So I think the question is whether it is under the scope. It is under the scope. And the second question, they use Big Head Buddha to break a record. The number of Big Head Buddha breaking a record would be the main theme of the event, and so this is a main part of enrichment of the event content. At the outset, when we were studying the proposal, we agreed that this is a sum that we could subsidize. So when it comes to production of lions and dragons, whether it's to break world record or enrichment of the event, they are all under the scope of the fund? Not necessarily. For lions, well, there are many lions in Hong Kong, so so they don't have to specifically produce lions for this event. And in 2012, that was the year of the dragon, there were 2 golden dragons. For visitors and local residents to pin papers written with their hopes on. So the 2 golden dragons were specifically produced for the event, so it was under the scope. For 2013, it was just PL, unicorn, so nothing special. For this year, it's the Big Head Buddha. Well, nowadays, you don't really see the Big Head Buddha when you see a lion dance, and they require the costumes to be standardized. And that's why they have to specifically produce the costumes for the appearance of the 1,000 Big Head Buddha. And it's specifically for this event, that's why we said that we would subsidize this. A last question. Our understanding in the past was that there are restrictions on the scope of the fund, so you would check against whether the items are indeed under the scope. But you also said that if the overall expenditure has increased, then your ceiling will also increase. By the same logic, you have to scrutinize all the items to make sure that the money is spent only on necessary areas. Think before you answer, Deputy Commissioner. It's a very important idea. this will explain the concept of the fund. We understand the higher the expenditure, the higher the ceiling. The lower the expenditure, the lower the ceiling. But that is only at the application stage. If the budgeted amount is higher, and should we agree to fund 50%? Yes, the 50% will be higher. As we said, even if we agreed to fund the event, we will still discuss with them by going over the items in the budget to see if they were reasonable. Say for C4, the organizer asked for 2.7 million, and in the end we allocated 1.5 million. We approved 1.5 million. We consider whether it's a new event. We consider whether we should fund the entire amount, i.e. 2.7 million. And in this case, we considered that and approved 1.5 million funding.
After we have agreed with them on the budget, the event takes place, and after the event, we would look at all the evaluation reports and the audited accounts. We would see, as I said earlier, that first of all we need to be satisfied. We're satisfied with the auditor's report, and secondly, we would also see whether the accounts would tally, and if not, then if there are any doubts, we would raise them with the organizer. At this stage, the crucial point is that for each item of expenditure, if it is 10% more or less than the original budget, we will be asking questions of the organizers. And this is not just limited to the events funded by the MBF. It also includes other items of expenditure not sponsored by the fund. We'll take a detailed look at whether or not each item of expenditure is reasonable. When we take random checks of the invoices, for the items subvented by the fund, we would be more meticulous. For the other items, we would also conduct audit or checks. Chairman, the Deputy Commissioner have spent a long time to answer a simple question. By her logic, then all the items of expenses should be looked at indeed carefully. And only Deputy Commissioner, that's true. First of all, we do not just want to find out whether the figures are accurate. We would also compare, see whether or not there's any discrepancy with the original budget. And we also have taken random checks of the invoices. Ellen, any more questions from you? Otherwise, we could adjourn earlier. Yes, I do have questions. According to the evidence by the witness, for the 2013 and the 2014 Lion and Dragon extravaganza, the organizer is given 4 months to submit the auditor's report. For 2013, it was submitted on the 22nd of February, so they took 53 days to submit the report. This year, they only submitted the report on the 8th of May. They took 128 days. 53 compared with 128 days. Talking about more than 100% increase. So, Mr. Chen Kum Lam, why is it that for the 2014 Lion and Dragon extravaganza, you needed to take more than double the amount of time you took last year to submit the auditor's report? How would you comment on that, Mr. Chen Kum Lam? Chairman, I've already answered the same question the last time. It would depend on when the co-organizers can provide me with all the invoices and bills before I could forward them to the auditor. If they hand them in earlier, then I can refer them to the auditor earlier. If they are late, then I can only submit them to the auditor at a later stage. But there is a deadline stipulated in the contract. It's not up to them to decide when they will submit you with the invoices. Of course not. In principle, at the end of March, all the invoices have gone to the accountant, and we have to wait until the accountant has checked all those documents, and then we would also ask the organizer whether they have missed any of the invoices that they would like to submit to us. So Mr. Leung's question is that last year you took 58 days, and now you're taking more than 100. Basically, because those invoices came to us at a later time. So for 2014, the performers who took part in the event for 2014 deliberately, took a longer time to submit their invoices, and last time they submitted the invoices to you in haste. I dare not say they were delaying with the submission of the invoices, but it's the fact that we were late. It was we received them at a late stage. Well, you were the convener since 2011. Why is it that the participants were able to enable you to submit the audit submit the audit report in 53 days, and the performance this year took more than double the number of days, 128 days. I must point out to you that it is the same auditor, Mr. Wong Lok Tuck, is the same auditor for these 2 years, and you're faced with a 4-month deadline. Is it because the performance for 2014 were deliberately slow in submitting the invoices to you? Otherwise, how can you account for the difference of more than 70 days when compared with last year? Well, given the important thing is I have to complete the work within the deadline. I think I would have met the requirement if I did that. I would not deliberately tell them they must submit all the documents within 2 months. So long as I could finish everything within the deadline, I would find it would be all right for me. I would not deliberately doubt as to why they were so slow or so early in returning all those invoices to me. Ellen. Of course, Mr. Chen Kam Lung understand this because I've asked the same question before. Is it because this year we have the Audit Commission overseeing the whole event? Would that be the reason, Mr. Chen Kam Lung? I would not blame it on the Audit Commission and the fact that they are monitoring the whole event, and because of that we have been slow. But you're aware that the staff of the Audit Commission have been monitoring the entire C4 project this year. Well, this is something which I came to know about at a late stage. Chairman, I thought that on January 1st, 2014, it is the evidence of the witness that the staff of the Audit Commission were already deploying the staff to take head counts in Tsim Sha Tsui. No, I wasn't that witness, Chairman. Okay, we can certainly check the transcript. I think, well, the Audit Commission did send staff to check on the spot. I wasn't aware of that. Or perhaps this is the evidence of the Tourism Commissioner. Would that be true? Oh, never mind, it's all in the Hansard. We can certainly look it up. I understand that the Commissioner or the Deputy Commissioner, were you aware that the staff of the Audit Commission were present? No? Just the convener knew. Well, I'm sure the Tourism Commissioner would know. Of course, this is still a mystery as to why they took more than 70 days compared with last year to have the report. Paul, I don't think you can leave. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a quorum. There are only 3 of us left. So for both years, you have a 4-month deadline for the submission of the accounts. Chairman, according to the letter we looked at just now, the deadline is up to the 30th of April. So, Mr. Tourism Commissioner, for the preparatory committee, did the committee, before the 30th of April, did the organizer apply to you for an extension of time? The organizer did apply to the Secretariat for an extension for the submission of their report. What was the reason? What was the reason they gave? Perhaps the Secretary could answer the question. When did they apply to you for an extension, and what was the ground? Chairman, it was roughly the end of April, if I remember correctly. But I need my colleague to clarify whether it was earlier than that. At the end of April, we were very, very anxious because we knew that the deadline was approaching. And also the PAC were already putting forward the request to us as well. So we really traced them hard. I understand that at the time the organizer told us that the auditor needed more time. That was the situation at the end of April. Do you have record for that? That is when was the request made and what was the reason? Was the reason that Mr. Wong Long Kak, the auditor, couldn't do it on time? Convener, we did officially apply to the secretary of the assessment committee. The application was made on the 25th of April. We have the letter. Yeah, could you provide that a copy of the letter to the secretary? So this was raised on the 25th of April. Was the reason the auditor could not finish on time? If I may read the letter to the secretary of the assessment committee, Ms. Mo. In mid-April, the accountant had conducted a preliminary check of the accounts and asked for further accounts. For example, so because of some members and the responsible persons were not in Hong Kong before and after the holiday, and that's why the relevant invoices could only be collected recently, and the auditor needed more time to check those documents. And therefore, we would like to urge the assessment committee to allow us one extra week to submit the assessment report, and we will. We will try our best to expedite the completion of the report. When the Tourism Commissioner has received that application, or the Secretary to the Assessment Committee received that application, how did you deal with that application? Emily? Thank you. Our colleagues had inquired with the contact person of the organizer, and they gave the same reason as they stated in the letter. Bearing in mind that other organizers in the past have used similar reasons to and asked for an extension for the submission of the report, and taking that in consideration, we agree to give them the extension. We've also responded to the organizer as well. Yeah, we've already asked them to produce those documents already. You have them already? No, we have not yet received them. Yeah, I think the secretary has already, taken that to be copied. You asked for extension until the 7th. You couldn't deliver the report on the 7th. You're only able to submit the report on the 8th. The 7th was Wednesday. Did you put in another application for extension? Did you apply for an extension again, Mr. Chen Kam Lam? On the 7th, indeed, we were able to only obtain the auditor's report at a very late hour, and we submitted the report on the following day. I explained already that May 1st was a holiday, and the next few days were also public holidays, and they were also Sundays and Saturdays. So the amount of time our auditor had, I think our auditor only had about 2 working days, and during the time we explained the situation to the MUF. We also suggested as to whether or not we should ask for an extension of a few more days. The Secretariat of the MUF told us try to submit it to us as soon as possible. So it was pouring in the evening of the 7th, and I deliberately, drove to the ground accountant's office and waited downstairs for him to deliver the report to me. Is that also the direction of the Secretary of the Assessment Committee? Yes.
So was it you? Was it you who was spoken to? It was through that Miss Feng on their side. So on your side, who said that it should be done as soon as possible? Was it you, Miss Mo? I have to find out. I think it's someone from the Secretariat. My understanding is not that they are asked to submit it as soon as possible. It's not the case that we ask them to just leave it. We ask them for the audited report. Maybe you find us the document. Well, you already asked for the list of cases when they asked to submit the report later. I don't know if you can remember the audited report of Patrick Wong CPA. It was assigned on the 8th of May. Yes. But it was on the evening on the 7th of May when it was pouring down that you went to the accountant's office. Well, it was on the next day when I was given a proper copy for submission. Well, why did you go over there in a pouring rain to get something that is not an official copy? But when it's prepared, I had to sign. Sign on what? On the copy on the 7th or? Yes. On the 8th. Well, after we've signed it, then the accountant signed. Then they had to staple it together. So on the 7th, you obtained it to sign, and on the 8th, you gave it back to Patrick Wong CPA, who signed before submission. And they took that into account. That's why they dated it the 8th, although it was given to you on the 7th. I believe that is dated the day when it's signed, but I could not tell them to date it on the 7th because I respect their professionalism. Alan. I have a question for Mr. Chan. Earlier, in reply to Mr. Kenneth Leung's question, you did not entirely agree with the audited report of Patrick Wong in relation to the 2014 event. Can you elaborate? Which areas are the ones you did not agree? I did not say that I did not agree with the way it was written. What was written was the fact, but I could only explain after the report was submitted. But it's already written. There was nothing I could do. Let's look at Gen 22, page 194. A number of questions were asked of Mr. Chen Kam Lam. This is a document of Patrick Wong. There are 2 points made. One is the 10,781. That is the cash and does not match, as stated in the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement did not match with the balances as shown in the bank saving book and statement. And the second point is that in relation to the procurement, the agreement, according to the agreement, procurement cannot be made with associates or related parties. And hence, there are qualifications. Are these the 2 points you don't agree? Chairman, as I said, that is already written. All I could do was to respect what was written. That is the conclusion. I've explained many times that the $10,781 was brought forward. Over the years, I did not pocket the amount, but I simply just brought forward. And we have disclosed all related parties before the event. The accountant or the auditor will state what they see from their perspective. We submitted all the information to the MEF for them to evaluate the outcome. I believe that in the past 4 years, every year, the Lion Dragon Extravaganza has done a lot for Hong Kong. It has successfully built a good brand for Hong Kong's tourism. I have never seen an organization obtaining a Guinness World Record for consecutive 4 years. I think it is the hard work of the preparatory committee of the extravaganza, and I do think that the auditors will see things from their own perspective. I'm explaining to you based on facts. No, it's not in accordance with their perspective. They pointed out that under the agreement signed with the administration, you have to meet this requirement. You will have to obtain exemption if you could not do it. This is an agreement requirement, not the view of the auditor. You're right, Chairman. We follow the agreement to the letter. I don't know whether our auditors were completely clear about our practice. We gave them the documentary proof. If they think that there is a slight discrepancy, they would have to state it. I respect that. In your application, you will state the cost of each dragon, lion, Buddha's head. Did you obtain the information from the market? Did you or did you not? And show us the evidence. If you've done it, explain to us. If you haven't, explain why. If you did, tell us how. We have to know. As at the start in 2011, we did a market survey when it comes to the transportation fees. And I have all the invoices. No, it's not a matter of invoices. You have to show evidence why you budget the sum for this particular sum for each, say, lion, say $70, $100. We are asking from the perspective of the agreement. We have the data. We have done market survey. In the end, we reached an agreement with the transportation cost level. Well, Mr. Leung was asking about a related party transaction. There are related party transactions, but the administration did not give approval. Is that right, Alan? Last Saturday, I heard from Mr. Chan Kam Lam that it was mentioned verbally, and I wonder, well, prior to the release of the auditor's report, they would be given a chance to explain, but there was no explanation, and I want to follow up. As far as I know, when it comes to auditors, on this occasion, Patrick Wong, CPA, before they make any qualifications, they would definitely give a chance for the party to explain. Failure to do that, if they cannot explain it fully, then they would make qualifications. Is it the case that, according to Mr. Chan, Patrick Wong did not follow the usual practice, i.e. not give Mr. Chan, Mr. Ngam and Yu, Mr. Ha Tak Kin, and another Mr. Ha to a chance to explain about the seemingly breach of contract? Is it the case that Patrick Wong did not give a chance for them to explain before making the qualifications? If that is the case, let me know. I want to know why there is such a bizarre situation. Well, there is indeed so bizarre. If I was given a chance to talk to them, I would have asked them not to write anything. Please refer to 3.10, paragraph 3.10, the last sentence. Please read this paragraph. Why it was not addressed? We explained in the last hearing. In the first year of the event, they came to present their proposal. When they were making the application, the convener brought the two masters. And at that time, the assessment committee was interested. But they saw that if they were to come up with over 1,000 lions on the 1st of January, they wonder whether it could be done, because you set the target to break a world record, and if that target cannot be met, it will be a blow, a heavy one, to the event. So questions were asked as to how they could ensure that over 1,000 lions could be procured. The convener's answer was that these two masters enjoy a very good reputation in their field. As a result, they could mobilize that many lions, and their presence would be a quality guarantee. The assessment committee accepted the explanation, and they knew that the two masters would co-host the event by getting the lions, and that gave us the confidence that the event would be successful. And we explained the situation to the audit. Hence, on page 35, paragraph 3.10, it's so stated, and it's an explanation that it is, well, when it comes to a limited market, it is then, well, there may not be anything uncommon about an organizer using associates to assist when the service market is limited. Now, how come you would state so? Made this clause in the agreement is practically a trap. I would like to put it to the witness that Ha Tak Kin and this Tam Ting Pong cooperated with in the Lions and Extravaganza, Lion Dragon Extravaganza for the first year. That's the same in 2012 as well. If you did not see it, that means you've been blind for a number of years. We were aware of that for the several years. every year there was such disclosure in the presentation. What's lacking was the written application for an exemption and a written approval from the government. But that is not how the agreement set out. We follow the agreement, we follow the documents.
We cannot move the goalposts at any time. We need to look at things fairly and justly. I think Mr. Kenneth Leung earlier already had pointed this out. Patrick Wong, CPA, is not the first time that he is your auditor. He audited your accounts for both C1 to C4. He was the auditor for all those 4 years. For 2011, 2012, 2013, he made no qualification in his audit report. But these two masters, Mr. Tam and Mr. Ha, also participated in the event for the 3 years before. That's why I'm pointing out that 2014 is rather special. And that is the focus of the whole inquiry. And is it because for 2014 the audit commission was checking, and that's why you were more serious and you came up with all the name lists? And Patrick Wong wouldn't bear the responsibility. He's protecting himself here and expressed these two reservations in the audit report, and that is my understanding. If the witness believes that my deductions are unreasonable, then he can certainly point that out. Chairman, Alan, let's hope that we can finish all the questions today. Let's first of all extend the time. I don't think if we cannot deal with it in 15 minutes, we may as well. I think we can. Chairman, last time I asked a question regarding page 37 of the audit report, Chinese version C, which is about procurement and recruitment. There are no invoices and no quotations. I think you remember this, Chairman. For 2014, one of the items is the laughing Buddha, the Buddha head. And if we according to the report, we're told that a certain Mr. G, who told the media that he had provided quotations to the extravaganza is about $50 per set. But when we look at the accounts here, I don't have that breakdown here, and the expert is not present. Apparently, it will work out to about $200 per set. So my question for Mr. Chen Kam-lam was not this is a fact that this Mr. Chi, who claimed, well, he is the fashion wholesaler who gave a quotation. Why is it that this quotation is not submitted to the Director of Audit, Mr. Chen Kam-lam? Chairman, this report was a false report published by Apple Daily. I think on the same day or the following day, I think this person, gave a press conference to clarify. And we've also been able to approach the proprietor of Hub Lee. He had once supplied costumes to us for the earlier years. But for 2014, our costumes for this year, event, especially the costume for the Laughing Buddha, they were not supplied by this person. We've also asked him to draft a statement to clarify, and I can certainly, give this to the committee for record. And I quote, the Hubley fashion wholesaler specifically want to clarify a report by Apple Daily on the 9th of May this year because it's an erroneous report. Our company had never actually, in respect of the costume for the Laughing Buddha, we've never submitted any quotations, and we are not the supplier of the costume and the Buddha head for the 2014 Lion and Dragon Dance extravaganza. Therefore, the report is totally erroneous, and then he also has provided his signature and his ID number. But in para C, Mr. Chen Kam Lam may also confirm this, and that is for the line and leg and dance extravaganza for 2014, there were no quotation for the line Buddha head. Oh, I do. But in that case, could you supply the invoices to us? When the Director of Audit came to this conclusion, they didn't give you the opportunity to submit the quotations, right? Did the Director ask Mr. Chen for those quotations? I think in paragraph C of the report. At the time, we were auditing C1 to C3. As far as C4 was concerned, other than deploying our staff to inspect, to monitor the event on January 1st, our report was not yet completed. So we have not, checked what happened in C4. It's only for C1 and C3. Through the Tourism Commission, we asked the organizer about whether they have some information relating to their procurement, whether or not they have a procedure for quotation and so on. And I understand that at the time they were not able to provide the information. Chairman, I have one more question. Alan, Mr. Chen Kam Lam, I think if you have such information, you should provide them to us. Page 38 of the audit report, I think we've touched on this already, bracket H. And here the Director of Audit points out there's a sum of $0.28 million unspent balance which had not been returned to the government. I'd like to invite Mr. Chen Kam Lam to look at Gen 8, which is the agreement itself. Page 29. 29, that's clause 14. Return of the topic is return of surplus to the government and the reserve fund. I'd like the chairman, Mr. Jeffrey Lam, to also look at this. And here is rather explicit. Of course, earlier it's mentioned that an account will need to be opened, and then all the funding from the MEF, the sponsor amount should be deposited into the amount. In 14.3 of the agreement, it says that when the prepared committee for the line and dragon dance extravaganza, after they have submitted the final audited account under clause 12.2, the grantee may submit an application to the assessment committee for approval. And the assessment committee will do the sums, and if there's any surplus, it can either be retained by the organizer for use in the following year, and if not, according to 14.3 bracket A, the full unspent portion should need to be returned to the administration. So my question for the Deputy Commissioner is this. That is, why did this happen, and why did you allow this to happen? That is the $0.28 million which he returned to another sponsoring organization. Obviously, he has not followed the agreement. Chairman, we have actually verified with the Audit Commission regarding Section H. Our understanding, and also according to the Audit Commission, here they're referring to the event C2. Event C2 took place on the 1st of January 2012. At that time, at the time of approval, the old mechanism applied. We haven't yet started the new mechanism after the fund was extended in 2012. At that time, we didn't have the requirement relating to the return of unspent surplus. And at that time, in the contract for C2, there was no such provision. I'd like to invite the Deputy Commissioner to Gen 6, page 29. 29, Chairman. That is about surplus. But early on in our hearing today, I mentioned that our colleagues were aware of this clause, and we are also aware of the $0.28 million. We did ask the organizer at the time why the amount was returned to the sponsor. The organizer explained to us at the time, as I said, that they have a sponsor who had placed an amount of money with them just in case the MEF funding could not foot the entire bill. Then they wouldn't have to look for funding elsewhere. So we're satisfied with that judgment, and therefore we also have this on record. After we've made our inquiries and after we are aware of the situation. And that's why, and also the Director of Audit was also able to find such invoices from our records. Of course, with hindsight, this sort of agreement is reasonable because, but strictly speaking, of course, this is not satisfactory. I think I've also asked this morning, that is, if they make any changes to what they have claimed in the application, they would need to report to you. That is the contract or the agreement. Whether C1, C2, C3, and C4, the same clause is there. So you need to follow the rules. It's not for your judgment. Yeah, we accept this, Chairman. What are you accepting? We accept that we've not required them to inform us in writing for approval. Chen Kam Lam. For the staging of each mega event, to ensure that in the end we could break even, every year we will invite some sponsors to make up for whatever shortfall that we might encounter. It's the same for 2014. The sponsors, when we invited them to be our sponsors, we would say clearly that if there's any surplus left, it will be returned to the sponsor. So they gave us a sum of money which could help us pay for the expenses which need to be paid in advance. And when we know what the final amount has been spent, we would return whatever unspent portion to the sponsor. That was an undertaking we gave to the sponsor. So, Mr. Chen, you have two undertakings or commitments. First of all, your commitment to the MEF funding agreement, and your other commitment was your commitment with the sponsors. So you've given an undertaking in the contract, and you have made a commitment to the person you signed the contract agreement with, and you failed to honor that. It's not that I have not honored my undertaking in the agreement with the MEF. It's just that the sponsored amount and the amount the sponsor gave me was only and it's different from our other surpluses because we didn't sell any tickets. We had no ticket proceeds. I have no other sources of funding.
And in the end, as the Deputy Commissioner said, whether there is a loss, a profit, I don't know. Can you show us anything that you have signed? Yes. Well, we don't need to know the name of the sponsor. You can write it out before giving it to us. I remember I have given it to the MEF. So you have it, Commissioner? I don't have the file with me, but if the organizer can supply the information, that would be ideal. But of course, we can help. Has the audit seen it? We have the copy, but we did not see anything about underwriting it. So can it be supplied? It may not necessarily explicitly said that there will be underwritten. It may be verbal. The Deputy Commissioner said that under 14.1, 14.2, the $280,000 should not have been excluded because there is a definition of income. It's not for the convener to interpret it as he wanted. And I have another question. The 280,000. How can you make sure that it is not the funding from the MEF? It's not marked. It's put in the a bank account. If there is a there was an unspent balance, you gave it back to the sponsor. The funding from the MEF can only be spent on two areas, and I have already explained. The money spent are supported by the invoices. I can't pocket the money spent and then give it to someone else. But all the money is in one account, is it not? The money is not marked, or is it? Well, this sponsorship that underwrites the event, an undertaking was given at the time of the sponsorship that any surplus will have to be returned. So it's not an income from the event. Then I have to see the proof. If the witness can differentiate the money, then I am waiting for the evidence. We have overrun past quarter to. Well, that's all the time we have. Yes. We're still awaiting a lot of documents. We do need another meeting. You owe us a lot of documents. Let's read the documents. We will have a meeting ourselves. If we need we need you to attend another meeting, we will let you know. It's past the appointed time, so we have to stop. Just give us the information. If we need to follow up, if we need another meeting, we will inform you. But I have some questions for Mr. Jeffrey Lam. So we will at least have one more meeting. You haven't set the date yet. We have Saturday. We have already set a date. Well, you have to ask if the witness is available. Are you all available Saturday? Saturday the 14th in the morning. Morning or afternoon? 14th morning. Well, I have some difficulties because there is a consultation, the West Kowloon one. What about Friday the 13th? Between 5 and 7. But it clashes with FC. We're trying to find a time. How about the 13th? Between 5 and 7. It clashes with FC. No. Yes, there is the Finance Committee. It's between 3 and 5. No, there are 3 sessions. Till 9 o'clock. Doesn't matter that we clash with the FC. You have to ask if it's all right. You have to ask the clerk. Well, what about the Saturday afternoon? Mr. Lam, you will be the main character. Mr. Leung has questions to ask you. Saturday afternoon. What time? 2:30. What about early Saturday morning, 7 o'clock? I can't. What time is the West Kowloon? 11. What about 8:30? Yes, I can do 8:30. 8:30 to 10:30. But it's the amendment bill, construction worker registration. I'm a member. Me too. 8:30. Saturday. 8:30. I don't know if I can make it. Just give us all the information. I can give you the information tomorrow. Thank you.
唔好意思，完咗㗎啦，actually，我哋大家可以
Meeting adjourned.
處長，我唔好意思。